What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got an episode of Chicago Bulls Weekly to bring to you guys as we dissect the previous week for the Bulls that we just faced, discussing some awards and stuff in between, and also looking at the Chicago Bulls upcoming week, which will be a fairly lighter one because we had a couple of games. We had a back-to-back situation, 4 games this week and stuff of that nature, so it's going to be nice to maybe take a little bit of a relaxing week, I guess you could say. It's only 3 games this week, so it's only 1 game difference, but I do think that means a lot for the Bulls in their rest, because I feel like they haven't got that much rest since, of course, this week began. So we're going to discuss all of that in this video. Before we get any further, if you like the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls, their previous week, and their upcoming week to come. Now, again, the 4 games that we played this week, we ended up going 3-1. That seems to me like a very good week altogether, and I'm thankful by the end of it we could sit here and say the Chicago Bulls did well this week. Even in the loss that they had against the Golden State Warriors, we dropped a massive amount of points. Now, it doesn't necessarily excuse the fact that the Bulls ended up choking the lead. Simple as that. But I think that the whole week we could truly say the Bulls did some positive stuff. Did very well offensively, and they still have work to do, of course, but solid week overall. But let's start off with the first week against the Charlotte Hornets. The first game, it was overtime. We ended up winning this game 119-112. Again, this is the first sign in my eyes where we saw the Chicago Bulls crumble a lead in the second half of a game. And that's happened throughout the whole week, really, in all fairness. So that's something we've got to take a note of, and something that we need to improve upon in future weeks, so we're not seeing the Bulls collapse in the second half. But that's exactly what we saw against Charlotte. They ended up finding their way in overtime, and because of a few big stops and a few big buckets, we were able to steal the win in overtime. You can almost say the exact same thing against the Houston Rockets. This was another overtime game, and the Bulls won this one 124-119. This is a big win for the Bulls because we don't often verse the Houston Rockets. They have a decent record. They had a better record at the time compared to the Chicago Bulls, and you know, they're a tough team to beat, and I think they showed that with their second half performance and how they played. But the Bulls were up for most of the game, and we let it slip away once again. But Zach LaVine had a huge overtime performance, had a great game this time around, and ultimately helped seal us the victory, as well as a Kobe White clutch 3. Then we move over to the game that we lost, and that was the Golden State Warriors, 140-131. This was the game where the Warriors scored 48 points in a single quarter. The Bulls scored 45 points in the second quarter as well. So it was a very interesting game, but the Warriors went flying in the second half, playing some of their best basketball I've seen all season, returning back to some of their prime, I guess, games right there. And it always seems to happen against the Bulls, and it happened today as well against the Bulls. Klay Thompson hates the franchise. Stephen Curry ended up going off. Kuminga ended up going off. Wiggins ended up going off. And, of course, the whole Ring of Honor ceremony. This is one to forget, in my opinion, for the Chicago Bulls. I don't really want to think about this in the future. Then we played our last game against the San Antonio Spurs. We won this game 122-116. Again, another second half collapse by the Chicago Bulls. The San Antonio Spurs did have, I guess, the lead at the beginning of the fourth quarter. They took the lead, and there was energy in the Spurs arena. Thankfully, though, the Bulls managed to muster up the last piece of energy that they had in the game, and they went on a run, and they secured the win in the end. So fair play to the Bulls on that regard. Also fair play to San Antonio for bringing the effort in the game, considering how lackluster the injury list for them was. In fact, all these guys had big injuries on their teams. So it's a respect to those teams that brought it close, but it's also respect to the Bulls for, in the end, taking a win that they should be taking and beating a team that they should be beating. So, yeah, fair play to those teams as well. Fair play to the Bulls. Now let's turn into the must improve, the 6th man of the week, the player of the week, and I think that's the defensive player of the week. I think that's all of them. But let's start off with the must improve, and the Bulls went 3-1. Look, that's obviously, you know, I've said that countless times already, but even in the game that we lost, we dropped 131 points. Honestly, if there's anybody that I'm actually picking the must improve upon, it's the coach. It's Billy Donovan. Because I don't feel like one specific player did poorly throughout the whole week. It was definitely an up and down situation. Vooch had a very bad game against the Warriors, had one of his best games against the Spurs. I think the game against Charlotte, both Vooch and Drummond played well. LaVine played well in some of these games. DeRozan played well in some of these games. Kobe White played well in some of these games. So again, it's just a massive collection of guys playing well some games and playing poorly the other. But the one thing that remained the same is our issues. And I do feel like Billy Donovan is, to an extent, responsible for that. The lack of adjustments. I feel like, again, he's not really telling his players what to do in the fourth quarter as a head coach. I think he's just letting things happen. That's my own opinion. Maybe he is doing that and the Bulls players are not listening to him. I don't know. But a lot of problems have come out this week, and I feel like it's more of a coaching issue than anything, especially with how we are going back to ISO and hero ball in the fourth quarters. I feel like that's a DeRozan and a Billy Donovan issue. I feel like the lack of adjustments is a Billy Donovan issue. I feel like the lack of effort on the rebounding is an emphasis on not, by Billy Donovan. He has to emphasize that thing, and he didn't do it, in my eyes at least. So, my master approval would probably go to the head coach this week, which is very rare, but it, I think, is the right thing to do. Now let's then turn into the, I guess, sixth man of the week. This is a bit of a tough one because I honestly don't... It's hard because one side of me thinks Drummond should get it. Because I feel like, again, it was the game where Vooch started against the Hornets and he had 21 points. He was amazing. But there were other games where he struggled. Ayo was the same. He had 21 points in the last game against the Spurs. And, he struggled for some of the other games. Javon Carter wasn't really present for most of the week except for the last game. And stuff of that nature. Dalen Terry hasn't played. And stuff like that. Patrick Williams was out. So it's hard. Sixth man of the week is hard. But I think I'm going to have to give it to Ayo. I feel like Ayo is the right person to give it to because I think he made more of an impact defensively than other guys, and his last game is, the most recent game. You could call it recency bias, I guess, but that's where I would lean towards for the sixth man of the week. Defensive player of the week, I think I'm going to give this one to Alex Caruso. I think there was a game where AC didn't play, but that last game against the Spurs, we needed every single little bit of defense and more from Alex Caruso. Again, I feel like for the Warriors game, he was our best defender alongside of Zach LaVine for the first half. The Rockets game, I thought he did well defensively. Even Kobe White, I think, did well defensively in that game. I feel like AC there's a reason why he's starting. It's because he's the defensive leader of the team in a team that's not necessarily the greatest defensively. The big three just ain't defenders. So you needed a guy like AC in there, and I think we have won some games because of his defensive energy and bringing that to other guys in the team. My, as player of the week, I think we've done all three. My player of the week, that's a tough one. Again, it's so hard because Vooch had 2 strong games this week. Kobe has been super consistent this week. LaVine has had some strong games this week. DeRozan has had okay games this week. It's tough, it's tough out here. But I think if I'm going to pick, I'd pick Kobe White. I feel like the only game I didn't really like from Kobe White was the Warriors, and that's because he was in foul trouble. He actually had a strong game. And I feel bad for him because he could have had better games, but in the fourth quarters of those games, he just didn't get the ball. And I feel bad for him there as well. But I would say Kobe White's been my player of the week, but it's fine margins for sure. Now let's turn to what's coming up for the Chicago Bulls. We have 3 games to look forward to. The first one is away from home against Cleveland. This is going to be a tough game for the Bulls. We all know that. They like to play big ball. They like to dominate the paint. This will be tough. The next game is going to be against the Toronto Raptors away from home. This will be after a couple of days break, so maybe we could come in energized. But the new look Toronto Raptors is a team that I'm fearful of. RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley, 2 players that seem to get new life with the Toronto Raptors. They look like a completely different team. Same with New York, to be fair. Both have won their trades, in my opinion. So fair play to both teams, and they're both looking really solid. And then we got a game at home against the Grizzlies. According to my knowledge, and again, people had to bring this to my attention, this will be a game against Memphis with no Ja Morant. He's having season-ending surgery on his shoulder. So this is going to be the Memphis Grizzlies team that essentially was the last seed or the second last seed for a lot of that season. So that should be a winnable game for the Bulls. If we could win 2 out of 3 of these games, my goodness, would that be massively important for our season. Again, every week and every game we go into is important. Massively important where we are right now in the middle of January. But if you could get 2 out of the 3, fair play to the Chicago Bulls. They might have turned a new leaf if they're able to do that. But let's wait and see. I'm gonna pick 2 out of the 3 wins. I'm gonna go 2-1 this week. I think the Bulls could get the job done. Thank you for watching. Drop a like and a follow, and or subscribe if you are new. And I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care, and peace.